Today we're going to talk about how to get your white belt in jiu-jitsu. So you are currently a leather belt, as Michael likes to say.
Yep.
Moving into jiu-jitsu, how do you make those first steps? Breaking news, this just in. People that have slapped that like and bumped the subscribe are more likely to have slapped that like and bumped that subscribe. Back to the show.
We had this podcast, right? We asked Dylan, since he was the first one, the most recent
Weight
one
loss
to
journey
sign
is
on.
going amazing for Dylan.
Look at the man. And he was saying, Facebook. You start there.
Yeah.
You start by asking your buddies to train. You start by Googling. You start by doing all that stuff we discussed in that last podcast. Check that one out because we talked about that. And that's where you start, man. You get your foot in the door and you make that commitment to yourself.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what it is, man. It's really what it is, commitment to yourself. Just know that this is not where you're getting into, it can feel overwhelming if you view it as it never ends, because that's what it is. It's something that never ends. So that can be overwhelming, right? But, breathing oxygen never ends either. Yeah. And you just do it one breath at a time, right? So it's not that big of a deal. You just know you're going to commit to something that you don't plan on ever stopping.
Yeah.
That's it.
For me, that was the amazing piece of it. I've had hobbies forever, and you get proficient at them, and you're like, okay, well, that was fun, but the challenge is gone. That never happens with jiu-jitsu. There's always a challenge. There's always a struggle. There's always something to work towards in jiu-jitsu, and it's that never-ending feeling of being where you want to be, but also like, hey, that was pretty cool. I did some cool stuff. But yeah, getting in can be very intimidating.
Yeah, it can be very intimidating.
There's a lot of people who go, I want to do that. And then months go by and they never show up at the door, or maybe they're like, today I've seen a bunch of stories of people pulling up even into the parking lot and then driving away.
You never done that? Honestly, in your whole career of training, have you ever decided you weren't going to train in the parking lot?
No.
I've done that. I've done that so many times. If you do that, whether you're because you're nervous to start, like we're talking about now, or just in general, hard to get yourself motivated sometimes, like you're not alone. Like I've done that. I've pulled up to a parking lot and left, right? So yeah, but I would imagine what we're talking about, beginner style, it'd be heavier and harder. Have a friend, man. Go with a friend.
Yeah.
Convince one of your buddies. Like tell them hey, I know you don't even want to do this. You're not going to sign up, but come with me.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. Somebody will come with you.
And you can invite your friends 1,000 times, and they might be like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And then they always bail on you. You got to show up at their house. Be like, hey, come, get in the car.
Yeah, right.
We're going to training. I started without knowing anyone, but I had I wanted to do this. I had wanted to do it for a long period of time. I had finally got a job that I was getting off at a reasonable hour, and I was like, all right, now is the time.
Yeah.
And I just showed up at the first gym, and I was a nervous wreck going in. But I did go in, and yeah, it was look at where we are now.
You didn't stop? Mm-mm. Right? Yeah. No, I didn't have a buddy either. I had been wanting to do it for a long time. Yeah. First armbar I ever did, I always tell the kids' classes, this is the first armbar I ever did was on a teddy bear in my living room. Right? Watching a UFC fight. I think it was an old Robbie Lawler fight or something. And I remember just copying an armbar on a teddy bear. Caught one of those Costco-sized teddy bears. And that was the first armbar I ever did. So I wanted to train, enough to where I didn't need a buddy necessarily to get me in the door either. I just went down there and signed up. But I don't think it's fair to compare my journey necessarily to an average person because I wrestled for years.
Yeah.
And I was not bad at it. So I had a little confidence going in the room, which is what a benefit, dude, to have some confidence walking into a new scenario. That's not common, right? So I'm impressed by people that start training jiu-jitsu with no experience in anything, and just go. And hopefully, that's why gyms need to make good experiences for new people.
Yeah. Right? I was 26 years old with no experience.
Yeah. You didn't wrestle or nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. So it was walking into that, and yeah, it bit me. You see right off the bat when people get that jiu-jitsu bug. There's no breaking that. They're all of a sudden they're there 3, 4, 5 days a week, and trying to make that sort of routine last is a struggle for some people. But when they first start, man, those first 3 months, they're like
the honeymoon, bro.
The honeymoon. All about
everything is all is well during the honeymoon.
Yeah, and then setting it up to into a regular scheduled training is perfectly fine. I've seen people say, well, I can only train twice a week. Well, train twice a week.
Yeah, train twice a week. I mean, train what you can train, man. Obviously, if you're doing it because that's what you could do, man. That's what my schedule allots me to do. Then go for it. But just if you ever catch yourself, and I've done this too, I've gotten to experience a lot in this grappling stuff, right? If you catch yourself, just maybe doing the bare minimum, right? Like, I'm only going to do what I feel like I have to do.
Yeah.
To keep moving forward. Like don't bare minimum it. Right. If you catch yourself doing that, you might want to just take a break.
Right.
If you're doing the bare minimum thing, because you don't want to do that, right? But if your schedule only lets you train 2 times a week, then train 2 times a week. Like that's.
And you might find that, okay, I can slip in a third. I can get to a morning class. I can, and people always say that they don't have, the funds or the time and the thing. But if you're actually passionate about something, you find the funds, you find the time, you 100%. Find what you need.
No, totally.
And it's really not that expensive in the long run, because people will go to dinner and spend $80.
I know, it's amazing, right?
And then they'll be like, oh, $150, $200 for jiu-jitsu. What's but there's 2 dinners for them.
People have $6 a day, which is very standard coffee habits, right?
Yeah.
So that's like a standard run-of-the-mill coffee habit.
That's,
What's
I think,
that? What's 6 times 3?
175 or something.
Man, $180 a month, something like that. Yeah. That's more than I charge.
Yeah. So stop making excuses, get to training. But making that first step, you just got to do it. Grab a friend, send a message, call the studio, go into the studio, whatever you need to do in order to make those steps happen. And if you do have a buddy that's in it, tag along, follow them, because they probably know it's unlikely that they went to one studio and never trained anywhere else, so they're going to have a little experience of the gyms in the area.
Yeah, you never know. It depends.
Yeah.
Just depends. If your buddy's a white belt, that might be the only gym they ever trained at.
Right, yeah.
But, there's Google reviews, there's you just dropping in and trying different gyms. This is like, this feels like exactly what we were talking about the other day, right?
And it's not 1990 anymore, so the chances of you going in and getting completely messed up is very, very low.
Right, yeah. People, they have business plans now, and they want...
Education has happened.
Yeah, they want to keep you.
Yeah. All right. That's good. So you have just received your blue belt. Now what? What are the expectations that your coach has? What is your game plan moving forward? Maybe you're still struggling with some of the white belts tapping you. What should you be focusing on? What should a new blue belt put in their forward-looking direction?
What should just keep doing what you were doing. Something got you a blue belt. Something got you from leather belt through that white belt to where your coach was like, man, you're not a white belt anymore, you're a blue belt now. I wouldn't change a dang thing unless, of course, your coach told you maybe you're that guy that used to wrestle and he's like, you need to pull guard more.
Yeah.
Okay, pull guard more. Yes, sir. I'm pulling guard more, right? Like, you do what your coach is telling you to do, but more likely than not, you do what got you white to blue.
Yeah.
And you keep doing it. Yeah, man. What is this?
It's the robot. It thinks that we said its name. Oh. Okay, Eco, off.
I'm here.
Off.
You won't be able to hear me anymore.
Fucking robots.
AI.
Oh. Anyway.
Yeah, so with the blue belt too, during your blue belt, right? You're gonna pretty much be exposed to most of what you're gonna know eventually, right? Like here's the thing about it. It's not as though the stuff that I'm good at as a brown belt or a black belt that I didn't know it existed when I was a blue belt. It's not like that. I knew it was there. I wasn't doing it, but I knew of it. And I saw it, and I even, maybe knew of guys that could do it well against me even, but they were still just not things I did yet that now I do all the time, right? So the cool thing about, like, your blue belt is that I feel like, especially nearing the end of it, you're pretty much have seen what you're going to see in jiu-jitsu. You might not, you're not as good at it as you're going to be, by the time you're a black belt or whatnot, but there's not going to be too many things, like, after that you're like, wow, I've never seen that in my life, right? And this is assuming you're somewhat, more of just a once or twice a week hobbyist.
I think what that leads to is an amazing point that you should pick up on right now is at white belt, your coach had a technique for you to get to positions and out of positions. And if you were struggling with a particular position, he might say, oh, okay, now that you know the trap and roll, that's not working. Okay, let's start working on the knee. Let's actually get to a half guard instead. Now, the higher you get into your jiu-jitsu, that's not going to be the thing. They're not going to give you a new technique in order to get to the next level. They're going to have you refine the techniques that you know to be better at them. So there's not going to be a magic technique that gets you out of any position or to the next position. It's going to be refining the techniques that you already know.
Right.
So if you have a really good Kimura and it works on the white belts, fantastic. You have a great Kimura. Now let's try to make the adjustments to make that same Kimura work on the blue belts.
Right.
Body shifting, that sort of thing. At white belt, you were looking at the mechanics of how to apply a Kimura, and now we're looking at body position and retention and how to hang on to that thing through transitions,
Right.
setups, that sort of thing. So it's no longer about, and there's always going to be techniques that you pick up over the time. There's millions of techniques that you could do, but it's less about learning a new technique and just taking that technique and learning all the aspects about that.
Yeah. It's more like, at white and, a little bit of blue, you find yourself saying, oh, I've never seen that move before.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like after that, you'll still find yourself saying similar things, but it won't be that you've never seen the move. It won't be that. It'll be, I've never thought to do it like that before, or something like that, right? To where, yes, you'll be making discoveries. Make discoveries, forever with jiu-jitsu. But it won't so much be like a move, right? Like it won't. It'll be more of like a concept, or just a timing thing or a setup or something like that you will have never thought of before, right? But there's not going to be too much brand new. The truth about it is like what most black belts were good at as blue belts, they're just really freaking good at black belts. Yeah. They didn't change. Yeah. They didn't do a big drastic change, man. And I don't think you should. Yeah. I mean, like you say, you're refining at that point. If I look at some of my students that I've gotten to watch, right, be white belts all the way up to black, like what they were doing as blue belts, they're just lights out at now. And every position close to it, like we were talking about in that one podcast, they are now also good at, right? Like it's as if, I feel like the analogy or metaphor, whatever, that I always think of in my head is that they took the ball or the pen, Sharpie, put it on the paper and just held it there and watched that ink blot slowly spread. Yeah. And if you do that for a decade in that same spot, it spreads out to all the other spots. Yeah. And you may have started out being a blue belt guy that just hunted guillotines. Yeah. That's all you did as a blue belt, right? And now, because of that front headlock focus, you're good at crucifixes, back takes, guillotines, everything that goes with it and around it. Right? That's what you do. You just refine. But not much brand new. Yeah. Not a lot of like technique discoveries as much as they're technical discoveries, Slightly different.
At blue belt, I think there's a bigger expectation of being a little more well-rounded than you were at white belt. So you should know a submission from just about every position. You should know an escape or a pass from just about every position. And if you got your blue belt, you probably do. But I found it good practice for me to just go through every position, right? Just grab a partner and be like, okay, I'm in mount. What's my go-to from here? Oh, I'm mounted. What's my go-to escape? And whatever pops into your brain, that's what you're gravitating to anyway. So dive down the rabbit holes on those things that you're already doing. If you love a trap and roll, okay, there's certain things that make a trap and roll very difficult to get. How can you exploit those aspects in order to make it work? Yeah.
And you'll do that naturally.
Yeah.
You'll do that naturally. Unless you have a coach that's like forcing you to, no, stop doing that and do something totally different. Unless you have that, you're going to naturally refine these moves. You will. I don't see too many people doing a trap and roll the same way on their day one as they are, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. You've refined it, all that, yeah.
The term jiu-jitsu game gets brought up a lot. And a lot of times it's not until the higher levels that they say you should be developing a game. At white belt, it's like skill or technique acquisition. We're gathering the techniques. At blue belt, you're starting to refine the techniques that you have already learned, adding ones here and there. And then how much of a game, quote unquote game, do you think a blue belt should have?
Well, I think you always have a game. I think maybe it's a semantics thing or something, but I think to me, a game is just whatever you are now. Yeah. Like well, your game might change. My game changed. I went from a pressure passing only double leg, don't want to be on my back. If I'm on my back, something went wrong in that match. Kind of a guy, that's pure smash, pure drive through you. And I pretty much flipped it 180 degrees, man. Like I still could do that. I still got that. You'll never not have what you started with, right? But now I'm full guard. I keep distance. I pass on my feet. Way less pressure passing unless it's needed, right? So your game will change, but it's not as though that I didn't have a game as a white belt. I just told you my game as a white belt. My game was pressure. So I think you always have a game. Your game is just how you fight. Your game is your style. Yeah. What's your style? Are you aggressive? Are you counter fighter? I think whether you're a white belt or even a leather belt, even leather belts have games. Yeah, you have a tendency, a way you fight.
Your go-to.
Yeah. Everybody's got a game, and your game will likely change, But if it does, it doesn't have to. Like I was saying, you can stay and just get refine, get really good at it, or you can decide. Like I decided at purple belt that I was no longer impressed with my jiu-jitsu. My own jiu-jitsu stopped impressing me. I remember watching a match out at a tournament that I won, and that I was literally just like, I'm not even gonna post this. This is gross. I won, but man, that didn't look cool. Right. And then you pop in a Rafa Mendez video highlight, and I'm watching him tap dance over guys passing their guard, and I'm like, I gotta get good at that at all costs. Like I want to get back to being impressed by my own jiu-jitsu, right? So that's when I chose to switch my game up, which was risky because guess what didn't work at all when I first started it as a purple belt? That passing. Like I had to get good at it. I had to go back through those learning curves of sucking at something.
The plateaus that we were talking about is exactly that, right? You're adding a new technique or a new system to your game. Of course your game isn't going to be as good as it was, and you're going to be plummeting for a while, and then once you get proficient, it elevates way past where it was because now you have a new skill set. Exactly. Now, if you built a new A game, now you have an A and a B game.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Totally.
But I think the Blue Belt Blues, right? That's how can we make a Blue Belt video without talking about the Blue Belt Blues? I believe the Blue Belt Blues is you've gotten to a level, you were handed a trophy, you were handed a belt for getting to your blue belt, and there's no longer a new move that is awesome waiting in the wings, right? It's that grind. It's getting the moves that you have proficient.
Refined.
And that's not as fun as being like, hey, here's this new move, check this out. Or here's this new submission. And also, you might be getting tapped by white belts. Maybe a bigger white belt, maybe, whatever the case may be. Maybe a smaller white belt that's better than you. Hasn't got their belt yet. But it's fine. Like, just accept it. Having a blue belt doesn't mean you can't lose to white belts anymore. Especially if you're trying and working through things. Because there's positions that I've done. Man, I've gotten smashed by people who are way less ranked, but I'm like determined to get this one move to work.
Right.
And like
working on something.
Yeah, you're working on it to a point of like, how far can I go with this before I get caught? And of course you're going to get caught if you're playing with that line.
Of course.
Yeah. And so if you're playing with things and you're adding techniques to your game or you're trying to refine, counters or sweeps, and you're going to get caught. It just is what it is, and that's perfectly fine. Think of your game like the stock market. Over the last 130 years, it's gone up reliably. But there's crashes. So you might be in one of those crashes, but eventually it's going to come back up and you're going to blast through that ceiling, and it'll always continually go up as long as you keep training. So if you're a blue belt, don't quit. Keep going.
I think Blue Belt Blues is also like, you think about how long it takes, right? It takes 1.5 years, 2 years, depends what gym you're at, blah, blah, right? But either way, it takes some time. And I think, there's something to like a race that has legs to it, right? Where, you get through a certain leg of a race, and sometimes you got to kind of talk yourself into, even doing the next leg, right? Maybe it might not just be frustration with techniques. It could be your body. Like imagine like after your first 1.5 years of jiu-jitsu, you're discovering injuries you didn't know were possible to have, maybe, right? You're like, my hip flexor, right? You're like, I can't like lift my leg up, man. It's like, it kills me. So I think a lot of the time it's that too, right? I recently had a blue belt stop training, and I think it was injuries. Yeah, and I say I think because sometimes they don't always want to tell you fully. It's just, they want, oh, I'll be back. It's a break. I'll be back, or whatever. But, I've heard that a lot, and then not seen people come back too. And you look at why, and I think with, injuries can push you out. You might start to do that math that people do, right? Where they're like, okay, I'm feeling really beat up. I've only been training for a year and a half, just got my blue belt. How much can I sustain this, right? Like, and I think that when that happens, you just got to make some decisions about your training.
Yeah.
About how hard you're going to train, how many times a week you're going to train, who you're going to train with. Maybe you spent your first year and a half not willing to tell that one guy no when he asks you to roll. And you're now deciding, like, look, I'm either going to not train anymore or I'm going to start telling that guy no.
Right.
Right? Like, stuff like that. You might have to start doing that stuff just to keep yourself training. Because I do think that's a big factor with the blue belt blues thing.
Yeah.
Your body starts to get beat up.
Yeah. Knowing your body and exactly what you said, there are certain people that, for whatever reason, you're more prone to get injured with, and you don't have to roll with everyone. It's great to experience different body types and everything, but if there's one particular person, just don't roll with that. I remember I was a white belt, and I was drilling with a brown belt, and he wasn't doing the move. And I would do my reps, and then he would do whatever he wanted for his reps. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is like, we're in the fundamentals class. We're in the basic white belts class.
Yeah.
And you're doing some crazy thing on me. Can we just, like, stick to what's going on? And he's like, oh, yeah. And then with one of them, I don't know what this guy's problem was. We were doing a choke, and I had the choke in, and I'm squeezing, and he's not tapping. I'm like, well, this is something I'm doing. So I continue to squeeze. And then he turns around and goes, you almost put me out. I was like, well, what are you talking about?
Where you guys were drilling?
Yeah. What? And I was like, what is going on? And
was it your first rep?
No.
Okay.
We had done a few, and then he just chooses not to tap for, I don't know.
That's weird.
It was super weird. And then I'm like, can we just do what we're supposed to do? You didn't tap. And I'm like starting to get a little irritated at this point. And like he walks off, and then after he leaves, like the group of people that were around me, colored belts, everything, look at me and go, yeah, he does that to everybody. And it's like, why is he still here? Like, what? Like, how did he get his brown belt? How did somebody like this? Because it wasn't just that. Everyone had an issue at the gym with this person. I don't remember his name or anything. But, yeah, it was the weirdest thing because I had been doing jiu-jitsu for, like, 6 weeks at that point. And this guy's a brown belt. And, like, just no etiquette for the class, for what was being taught. And so you're going to have sometimes a high-level person that's just an asshole.
Right.
Who does his own thing.
I mean, it's a freaking a jiu-jitsu gym is like about as melting pot as it gets. I mean, you'll have everybody from rich people to poor people to criminals to cops to in the same class, right? I remember having a guy that I knew for a fact was a cannabis grower rolling with the DEA agents. How freaking ironic is that? Right? And I remember looking, going, ha! That's hilarious. Right? Like, it's just...
That's also what makes jiu-jitsu amazing.
It is.
There's very few places in society that you can go and literally, no matter what ethnicity or
melting pot
standing in life you have, how much money you have in the bank, it doesn't really matter.
No.
On the jiu-jitsu mats, it's everybody.
But what that also that does, it guarantees you're gonna not like some of those people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm sorry, but and you could be really have great social skills, be able to bend to different personalities and whatnot. Doesn't mean you're gonna love them all, right? Like, there's gonna be people that you're like, oh God, this guy always wants to talk politics, or this guy, oh man, this guy smells terrible, right, or whatever. There's gonna be like things that bug you so much, and some of those things are not things to be taken lightly. Like, some of them might be so important that you've got to, tell this guy, I'm not gonna train with you, right? I'm gonna take some time, whatever. Yeah. I think I know that guy.
Do you?
Yeah.
Go say hey. I'll pause it.
I'm trying to think of his name. Hold on, because I'm just gonna butcher it. No, it's not Timothy. Did he have a black belt shirt on?
I don't think so.
Man.
I didn't see.
I thought his shirt had like a jiu-jitsu logo. No, but anyway, those people might make you want to quit. Like, or like maybe a scenario where you constantly get partnered up with a guy. Like if your coach partners people up, you and you, you and you, you like, tell your coach, man, say anybody but him, or any whatever. Like just don't be afraid to like try to customize your training a little bit if it's going to keep you from quitting. Those blue belt blues are bad, right? And if you feel like you got to just put your foot down and make some certain decisions about certain people, whatever, like I'm not training that class no more, that guy's always there, whatever. And hey, and even if it comes down to like, I got to go to a different gym. I wouldn't ever want to see my people leave at blue belts and go to a different gym, right? That stings to see. But like if I'm putting my gym owner hat aside and just putting on like my jiu-jitsu training partner hat, I'll tell a guy, switch gyms.
Yeah.
I mean, the days of calling you a creonche and saying that you're unloyal for doing that, long gone, man.
It is, yeah.
Long gone, man. Go find a gym that you fit with. Don't quit jiu-jitsu though. Don't think it's jiu-jitsu's fault. It's not.
Give your instructor a chance, right? So don't
Right.
just like disappear, because then the problem will never be resolved. He'll be partnered up with the next person, and that next person might leave because of the same reason. So let your coach know, because it might be okay. The guy's got a smelly gi. Well, maybe it's an old gi, and it's just always
Might be an easy
smelly.
fix.
Exactly.
Might be an easy fix.
It might be the coach just going, "Here's a new gi, buddy. Throw that one away.
Right.
Make sure you're washing
Or
it."
just telling them.
And then good.
Bro,
Yeah.
you own a gym for enough years, you're gonna have to tell a few people to wash their gis. I have.
Yeah.
I better tell a guy, buddy, come on, man, wash your gi. And they do. Oh, sorry. They just get used to their own smells so much they don't notice.
With
Whatever.
that, wash your belts. It does not hold secret powers.
Yeah, just don't dry them. If you dry them, you won't have any techniques. You'll be stupid. next day. No, I say don't dry because it shrinks. You don't want your belt to shrink. But yeah, wash your belt, bro.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy that people don't. Because it came from like, oh, wear it until it turns black. But they don't turn black. They turn
Is that
white.
where it came from?
Yeah. They turn white and then they turn dingy.
Well, if imagine you've never not washed a white belt forever, I bet you it does turn pretty dark. Oh gosh.
Welcome back to the Belts Off Podcast. Today we are continuing our brown belt discussion of what is a brown belt. We have covered white, blue, purple, leather, all the fun ones. Now, moving into what is a brown belt. What's the first thing you think of when somebody's a brown belt?
Oh, you're so close. You're doing it, man. You're so close, bro. Yep. Next one's the big one. Yeah, that's the pot of gold at the end of that long rainbow, right? Yeah, you're close. That's the first thing I think of.
Sometimes it's been referred to as the junior black belt, the refining belt.
Never heard that in my life, and I don't even like the way it sounds because what the hell is that junior black belt? No, you're
Right.
a brown belt. You're not a black belt.
Yeah.
I've referred to it as the tallest midget. If that's like mean to say, I apologize, but it's like, yeah, it's because it's like you're not a black belt yet, right? And that was your goal, but you're the closest you'll ever be to your goal, man, and that's huge. That's a good feeling being that close to your goal.
I think the junior black belt came from a lot of, like the IBJF used to say, once you become a brown belt, you can open your own school, you can start teaching, you can start doing these things that black belts do, but you're not quite there. I think that's where that came from.
I never even heard that till
Yeah.
just now, bro. Silliness. Junior black belt.
Yeah.
It brings me to feeling pressure, and then it brings me to exploring with pressure. So I feel this internal pressure, and for context, I'm a brown belt. I feel pressure being at that position, and then I feel like that's where I've been exploring my skill set with applying pressure and finding advantages and finding things out of that. So yeah, it's an interesting place to be with how you carry that pressure, right? And how do you present that on the mat at the same time being so close, right? Having that feeling.
How long? When did you get your brown?
So it has been coming up on 1 year.
Coming up on 1 year?
Yeah.
So that's how bad I am with time. I'd have been like 2.5, right? No, 1 year, crazy.
1 year. Yeah.
Crazy. And what do you feel different with them when you first got your brown belt? Like,
100%.
okay.
100%.
Okay, because we got perspectives here, right? We've got it's in the future, right? We've got
hope so.
it's in the past,
Still in
right?
that
Yeah.
blue.
We got a brown belt's in my future. We've got a brown belt's in my past. I've been a brown belt for about a year, and I just snagged my brown belt, right? It's a good group for the topic. Okay, so compared to when you first got it, 1 year. What's 1 year of a brown belt done for you, done to you?
So to expand upon what I'm saying of feeling pressure, upon getting my brown belt, I honestly leaned into your knowledge and your expertise because internally, I'll be honest, I felt very deficient. I said, okay, I'm not seeing things that coach is seeing or understanding, but I trust that he wouldn't put this on me unless he saw or understand something that I've yet to connect.
I think we all feel that way, though.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
'Cause I
right.
felt that way at Blue. You know, when he gave it to me.
For me, I felt like it really was really extra poignant at brown belt over any other belt. It was like that was a big hurdle for me. I didn't feel it at purple. I didn't feel it at blue. I certainly felt it at brown.
Yeah, because that's right below black.
Yeah, man. What's next,
I get
bro?
it.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
makes
you're at the end of
sense.
the road. You're looking at there's the finish. It's there. I mean, it might be
makes
miles
sense.
ahead, but
And obviously, we've referred to jiu-jitsu many times on this podcast as never ending, and it is. So I know all this talk about a finish line might be like, hold on, you guys are contradicting yourselves. Jiu-jitsu doesn't ever end, okay?
Right.
But you still start your jiu-jitsu with a big goal to get to a black belt, right? It's like we ain't gonna stop. We keep going, right? You could do podcasts on what's to be expected of a first degree, second degree, third degree, right? You could, because it doesn't end. But let's be real, man. There's a very crystal clear defining goal that everybody has, and it's black belt. So that's why we're referring to it as a finish line and whatnot. But yeah,
For me, brown belt was actually a giant relief.
getting it the day you got it, because you say was like it's in the past, but you are a brown belt.
Getting my brown belt was a giant relief. I had gone through so many injuries and so much adversity to at purple belt, and I was really trying to get a belt under you.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that.
And so when I started with you, I had just gotten my purple belt, and I got my purple belt and then went full time with you. Basically, is the way that it happened.
Right.
And then I had always wanted a belt from you just to solidify myself on the team and being under you, right? Because I respect you and I respect your lineage and everything that you do, and so there was that I really wanted, and then my body was just falling apart through my purple belt, and I'm like, no,
old age,
man, this is rough. And then things started clicking a little bit. And my knee even popped during the rolls when I got my brown belt. We did the gauntlet, and my knee
gauntlet
popped
rolls.
again in 3 rounds in. And I was like,
No stopping.
no. But it was a huge relief being able to have that and actually being able to say, yes, I'm officially under you. I'm ranked under you.
Got a belt.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, brown belt was my goal. Now moving forward, obviously black and that sort of
I was
thing.
gonna say you better have set a new goal.
But brown belt was that goal from white belt that I looked at as all right, you've basically made it at that point. If I can get to brown
Where
belt,
did you come to that conclusion, bro?
I felt like purple belt were savages, but
You were
brown
right.
belt intellectually were at another level.
But why not black?
Because that's dad. It's okay, that's great, but brown belt, I'll be that star kid or whatever that's going
Okay.
through. And it's the black belt puts you on parallel terms with your coaches and stuff, and that just seems weird to me.
if you view it as that, I don't feel parallel to Megaton.
Right.
So
Right.
no, I mean
And so
Megaton's.
it's different
coach.
now, but yeah, as setting goals and stuff as white belt, I was all right, I definitely want to get to blue, definitely want to get to purple, but brown belt will be that pivotal moment for me, and that's how I always felt of
That's
getting
interesting.
to that brown belt.
You know, this is cool. I don't get to do this with all my students and get in their brain, bro. Because I don't know that. I don't know that about you. I did not know that till just now.
Yeah.
And that could help me understand stuff about you. That's interesting, man. Okay, so you had put brown belt on a pedestal.
Yeah.
From day one.
Yeah.
Right, which is so unique to me because I just don't hear that often. I hear either the next belt or the final. Right. If you're a white belt, I'm thinking people tend to grind to the blue or have the ultimate black belt vision in their mind. But to have some middle range thing as a goal seems unique and interesting.
Once I got to brown belt, I feel like I can attack things a little more intellectually and start playing with the mindset, and I don't know, it's brown belt to me is an intellectual belt.
It's hard. I mean, you just got it though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you. I mean.
And I'm projecting the years of getting
yes,
through this.
that's
yes.
what I feel like you're
Yeah.
doing. Right. You're kind of foreseeing what you think it's going to be because you don't know yet.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's kind of cool. to have the 1 year brown belt perspective as well, because he can kind of speak on that, like what it actually is, and then I can speak on what it was, right? And you can speak on how it's how it's beginning, like how has it been? Like I know you had the relief, right? Because like there's a unique situation with coming onto the team. When you came on my team, you were a blue belt, right? Okay, you came on the team purple. So do you remember that feeling of like, I'd like to feel like I'm solidified on the team by being belted by the team, or did you feel solidified on the team already? How did you feel about that? Because I remember helping you feel solidified on the team, being belted onto the team.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both, right? It's certainly the way I felt, and with my situation, which is a whole other story. Coming from other academies and coming in, I already felt like you had opened the door and was like, "Man, you're welcome."
Right.
So
you
I
were on
had
the
your
team.
blessing. I was on the team. Getting a belt, it just solidified that, hey, I'm this is where I work. This is where I put in my hard, blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's official. But I already felt welcomed.
Okay.
I did feel welcome in that I was part of the team. Brown belt, again, to me was like a different level. In my perspective, getting a brown belt from a coach is a huge sign off on the person itself, more so than if you're getting like a blue or purple. A brown belt, kind of like that, I know you didn't agree with the junior black belt thing, but
Right.
it's like, here's a potential person that's going to be moving up into a higher rank in the academy. If I look at a brown belt, I'm like, okay, that his coach like respects him and is putting him in an admirable position. And to get a brown belt, I knew that it wasn't just going to be based on skill. It had to have been some sort of relationship also, because you don't just give a brown belt to somebody who you don't think is going to be a good representative of jiu-jitsu. Because I've had issues with brown belts in, when I first
Other
started.
gyms, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we were talking about that a little bit.
Right,
And my
right.
thought was, how did this guy get a brown belt if his character is this bad?
Because his jiu-jitsu was good. That's
Right.
why, bro. Because I'm not belting you on your character, dude. I'm really not. That's a very interesting topic, and I think I remember when you brought that up because we were talking about how he was not a good training partner for you. You were brand new, okay? His etiquette was bad. He was doing basically checking all the boxes of bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay, and he's a brown belt, right? And I remember when you brought that up, I thought that's almost a topic in itself, because I would make the argument that I don't care if he's a douche. I'm not belting you on that. I'm belting you on your jiu-jitsu. I'll give you hell about that. I've got guys on my team, that I give shit about etiquette stuff to all the time. But, I mean, I'm belting you solely on your jiu-jitsu. I would never be like, dude, I was going to give that guy the next belt because he's so good, but he didn't bow onto the mat or something silly, he broke
a douchebag,
etiquette.
he's not getting it.
I'm sick of having to tell him to put his shoes on before he goes in the bathroom. He needs to remember that he's not a brown belt. It's what does the shoes in the bathroom got to do with the brown belt?
Let's
right?
extrapolate that a little bit. So if you are looking at giving a black belt to somebody who has aspirations of opening their own gym, yet they're terrible with kids and they're not respectful with the women,
Good luck with your gym there, buddy.
okay,
I mean, but to
you'd
your
still
point, I
black
think
belt them and let them.
Yeah, I'm
because
black belt, bro.
they're going to expose their character, and their character has nothing to do with skill set.
None.
If
Nothing
you're
at all.
measuring someone on skill set, then you need to say, okay, let me get past all this stuff, right?
Yeah, you would actually have to intentionally be like, I know I don't agree with him on anything there, but I'm gonna look at that aside and just look at his jiu-jitsu if you want to be unbiased
Right.
and rank him. So that's what you got to do as a coach. I'm not gonna belt you on anything but your jiu-jitsu. I will also be so honest and real with you, dude.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah. I'll say what you just said, but I'd say it to them. I'd say, your jiu-jitsu is really good. You're terrible with kids, and you are not respectful to women.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to do good at a gym unless you can fix those things, but your jiu-jitsu, here's your belt, right? That's it, man.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a spot where jiu-jitsu instructors can sometimes overstep their bounds, It's like, you agree, you were going to belt me, and then you realized I was Republican. Now I'm not belting you. Shut the fuck up, right? Keep it jiu-jitsu. Now, there's obviously certain things, where let's say a guy is doing that one etiquette thing where he's being a terrible training partner and beating you up or something. That could be a boundary to your next belt because that shows me a lack of control. And a control over your weapon is a prerequisite to moving on. So if the guy's being rough on his training partner, I ask him, I say, dude, are you doing that on purpose? In which case that would tell me you do have control over your weapon and you're an asshole. Okay, or are you doing that on accident? Which means you're a good guy, no control over your weapons. Okay, both of those are bad. Okay, and if it's the one where he's just being an asshole, then I'm gonna probably handle it gym enforcer style or something along those lines, right? But if he's good at jujitsu, they're gonna get ranked strictly on that. Yeah, 100%. I do expect though brown belts to not make those etiquette mistakes, right? Like that would annoy me if that was my student that was doing all those things to you as you were a new guy, he was a brown belt. I'd have been giving him hell. I would have vocally in front of everybody. I've never had a problem doing that. Right? And I bet you that gym you were at probably didn't have a black belt that was like down to say, call people out in front of everybody and stuff, because sometimes that's what it takes. You don't have a lot of guys that do a lot of douchey stuff when they know coach doesn't, it got zero tolerance for that kind of stuff. And it equates to me getting embarrassed and feeling dumb because he calls me out or something, right? You don't want that.
Yeah, not at all.
But sticking with brown belt requirements, okay, you are so close to that pot of gold, right? That you are like downshifting, right? Like going from fourth gear so you can hammer it, right? Because, man, why would you not? You've been doing this race that's so long, and now you can see the finish line, man. If you're not willing to sprint a little bit harder, to go harder, right? Then I don't feel like you want it that bad, It's like it's sprint time, Like I look back on when I was a brown belt, what was I doing? I was driving really far. I was driving really far, bro. I was driving 15 hours to train, and I was doing it every month, and I was doing it for a couple weeks, and I would have my gym would have to get taken care of, covered classes by Brett, whatever. Like you sacrifice whatever, like. That's what brown belt was for me. It was my driving belt, bro. It was my driving belt. I got a brown belt in driving because Megatons was so far.
It's like it's very symbolic almost, right? And now hearing that, it makes me feel a bit more solidified in like my journey. I'm reflecting now, looking back a year. It's like I felt an immense amount of pressure. I'm like, dang, he gave me my brown belt. And I have this feeling of I don't feel to that caliber. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what do? I'm either going to lean into that feeling of deficiency and say like, okay, I'm just going to slink through. Or do I drive, right? Metaphorically speaking. Okay, so how can I catch as many fundamental classes as possible? Why? Because I've got this gap of deficiency that I need to bring my reality, which says I'm a brown belt, up to the reality of feeling efficient rather than deficient, right? And so that was the driving force for me. So it's like, okay, crunch time. Energetically, well, I only have so much energy, so I wish I could catch every class all day, but that's not reality. Like, okay, I gotta be strategic about this. What fundamental classes can I catch? Because I feel like for every fundamentals class I catch, just 1-2 moves, I'm able to retain, take with me, apply the very next session on an open mat, advanced class. There's that one technique, there it goes. It gave me the edge, it gave me the advantage. And I just start Lego building. It's like one block, another block. Now looking back a year later, I said initially I felt an immense amount of pressure. Mm-hmm. My peers see me in this light and I'm not feeling that. Okay, so a year of I want to grind, head down, and it's just as much cardio as I can, as many classes as I can, fundamentals specifically, explore these concepts in open mat sparring. Simultaneously, how's my cardio? How is my strength? Can I work on those things? Oh, that gave me a little more room to explore. Okay, a year back, now I feel like I'm applying pressure. A year ago, getting my brown belt, I had an immense amount of pressure on me.
Yeah.
And so it's like this, I felt like, I've been experiencing this, like I got to I got to get myself to these classes and start to obtain this knowledge to close that gap of reality. Right? And so, it's definitely been.
You feel like that weight's been lifted off your shoulders?
Yeah. There's still pressure. There's still pressure. I'm representative of, that step before. So it's like, for me, it was like I want to feel what my peers and my coach are telling me I am.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
What do I got to do to get there? All right, there's my homework.
Yeah.
Right?
definitely.
Imposter syndrome a little bit. at
Certainly.
first, right?
Yeah. That's it too. Imposter syndrome to the fullest. It's interesting, right? These arenas, these areas, we get that feeling.
Yeah.
It's you were saying the pot of gold is like right there, right? The next belt is so close, but it also feels like one of the furthest belts away. It's
Like you might feel like you got big gaps.
because it feels like there's so many things that I need to acquire and like fix before that
Yeah.
would be there.
That's good awareness, though.
It is, but I don't know that the imposter syndrome. I don't know if that ever really goes away. Like, you were talking about your black
It
belt,
will, bro.
and you were talking about your black belt, and when you got it, you're like,
Yeah.
you know, holy, like this is
I felt
actually
like
real
an
now.
imposter. I felt like an imposter. Yeah.
And then, but oftentimes, you know, when you're looking at black belts, you're not looking at a black belt who just got their black belt. You're looking at a black belt who's been a black belt for 3, 4, 10
A
years.
lot of time. Yeah.
And if you're looking at a black belt that's been a black belt for 10 years and you're looking at that as the benchmark to get black belt, that's
That's brutal.
that is brutal. And that's what's so great about Esteem, though, is because when I look at the black belts, I'm like, that's a high level black. That's not just a black belt. Those people there are high level black belts. Because there's run of the mill black belts that are good, but
Right,
they're not
journeyman.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
journeyman black belts out there, and that's okay, man. I mean,
And
for
just
sure.
seeing the caliber of black belt that I need to be
Feels
a
tough.
to be, you know, a black belt under you, or you know,
Feels tough.
It does feel tough.
Well, that kind of brings a good question, because I remember when we were doing the blue belt one or the purple belt one of those two, you turned to Dylan and you said, "What do you think it'll take?" So this is a
And you
good time
laughed at
for
him.
me. Yeah, right. Well, because you told him something that was, you roasted him or something. But now I should do the same for you, all right? Because this is the brown belt one. So what do you think, bro? What's it going to take? Because you just said you feel like there's a big gap
Yeah.
from the black belts, all right? And you have to fill that gap. How do you do it, bro?
I actually feel like I'm on the right path. I just think it's going to
By doing what? Describe the path that you're going to continue.
continuing to explore some insufficiencies and shoring up. Not so much really going after what I'm good at, but like taking care of a lot of the problems that I may
weaknesses?
that I may experience. So making sure that I can defend from certain positions and escape and get to better positions on just about anyone that's, you know, equally ranked or not as good. Making sure that I can do that. It's fun to spar.
How are you going to do that, bro? What's going to be the key?
Grinding. Keep classes, consistency, and then intellectually, right? I was saying at brown belt, it's time to be extremely efficient at everything, and having a game plan from most positions, and having a game. I've spoke about this in the past, is that I've spread myself wide a lot of times rather than diving deep into individual pieces. And one of the things that was brutal was you were hitting side control Kimuras over and over and over and over on me. It was like, all right, that is an area I need to work on. And that was one of the areas at purple belt that I dove into, and I was like, all right, anything you were saying, you know, don't get put in bottom side control. But I was also looking at ways to address it as they're moving to side control, as they're moving to certain positions. We talked about, you know, grading that frame and everything. Don't let them lock in. And then just places to go to from the bottom side control. My entire jiu-jitsu game, bottom side control has been an issue for me. I would almost rather somebody be mounted than be on side control of me. And so that was a hole that I needed to fix. And, you know, it's fixed on most people. It still could, I mean, everything can always use work, but
In the hole, and you do realize, though, that hole is not in bottom side control.
it's being put in bottom side control.
It's getting a guard pass.
Yeah, getting put there, which I've been working a lot on guard retention.
Because that's it. That one thing would fix your bottom side control problem.
Just not be there.
Working on guard retention.
But
Right.
yeah, refining and then being aware of what's happening. If my guard is getting passed, right, don't let them capitalize completely on a side control. Don't let them settle. Don't let them lock.
Right. Be hard to hold down.
Yeah, all those things. And then just making sure that if I do get put in a position, it's not necessarily a match-ending position if I do get put there. Like, if somebody gets the top side control, it doesn't mean they're going to submit me. It doesn't mean, even if they're pretty good, maybe I can defend enough to get a leg in, or I can get back to like a half guard.
Yeah.
turtle goes back through. But yeah, just working on places that I don't feel complete, or I feel like my knowledge base and my technique base isn't quite adequate.
Okay.
I
And
feel,
you're going to address that how is the question, right?
so
We're gonna-
some of the things, practice. It all comes back to practice, but practicing smarter, not
Practicing smarter. That's always a good thing.
having a goal, having a mindset, do some research after. Watching videos when you're lower rank and stuff isn't usually optimal because you don't know what the position feels like and everything. But there are certain ways that certain people do things, and it might, kind of like what you were saying, it might be a grip change in fundamentals, right? It might be a slight grip change, and it changes everything. And just setting up and continuing through.
True story.
Yeah.
What about you, bro? Same question, because you got same journey.
I mean, for me, it's literally fundamentals. That's it. It's just how what I've put in my head might be different for somebody else, but what's been working for me is I test the waters in advanced sparring. And I have certain people that I could say, we're neck and neck. I could be the hammer one day, the next day I'm the nail, and it's always a back and forth with these particular individuals. And typically, you know, they're brown belts, or we're right there, skill set wise. What I take away, if there's an exchange where, okay, they got the better, tomorrow I'm catching fundamentals. Now I take something away from that fundamentals. Then I go back and I touch base with them again, and I'm applying one additional thing that I didn't apply. And it often makes the difference. So then I leave saying, I leveled up one tiny little notch by taking that one fundamentals class, and where my mindset and my mentality of being on the mats is at, I'm able to absorb so much more than I used to.
Yeah.
Conceptually, I'm understanding some things that are unspoken. And so I feel like every time I get to that fundamentals, I'm really extracting something that becomes a game changer for the next time. So then I leave saying, okay, the more fundamentals I can catch, if I can catch 10 to 12 fundamentals class, that's 10 to 12 hours of additional information that I have over my opponent that I'm going back and forth with. And in a month, I theorize it's not going to be as much of a back and forth with him.
The intellectual side of
Yeah.
things, I really felt like it's, how do I say this? If you do your first jiu-jitsu competition, you go in there, it's a whirlwind, you have no idea what happened. After you've done a few of those, you can be like, you got me on that one. And I feel like your jiu-jitsu training over time becomes that too. You might be sparring in advanced, jiu-jitsu and really going back and forth and be like, man, I let my elbow slip out. And that was the downfall of everything. But you're able to understand and see that was the piece. Because so often, things happen to you. Boom, you get put in this position. Boom, you get put in this position. You just have no idea what happened earlier on. Mm-hmm. And I think the higher the level that I get, the more I can actually be aware of what caused the certain things. And sometimes you got to go, what the heck was that? But oftentimes I find myself being like, oh, I did this. And I know what was wrong, and the next time I just need to fix that piece. And then making that part of my game and locking that in so that I don't do that again. Fixing those little things, the small pieces that change everything. I was talking to Derek yesterday, who's a blue belt, and we were talking about not letting something happen to you. So sure, you can, get yourself out of an armbar once you're locked in and stuff, but if you control the hips, you stay parallel with somebody, you no longer have to worry about all those things because he can't create the angle. So if you're in his guard and he creates an angle on you, that leg's coming right over, you're going to be armbarred. But if you're able to control the position with just little adjustments, it's going to be much harder for them to isolate that elbow and extract that elbow if you're parallel with them, rather than if they're creating angles and working the wedge through. Mm-hmm. Little things like that you can just, earlier on, not letting yourself go down that rabbit hole. If you can make one little adjustment that shuts down what they're trying to do, then trying to fight back from a locked out armbar, changes everything.
That was kind of what I was getting at with your bottom side control problem.
Yeah.
Exact same thing.
Just
the bottom side control is not where the answer lies.
Right.
Just realizing that, okay, they're trying to extract the elbow. Okay.
So for yours, just realizing they're trying to pass my guard, right? You got to take that and apply it to your problem, right?
it's-
100%.
And it becomes those little things that I've found that just they save so much energy and they save so much work down the road if you can, you like you said, an ounce of preventative, right, beats pounds of
Oh gosh,
medicine,
yeah.
Uh, yeah. So just being aware of being like, all right, I know where this is going. Can I shut this down with a slight body position, or can I shut this down
Right.
with changing my grip and working from a position of that? And I think that's the intellectual side of things that I've really been focused on.
Gotcha.
And then if there's something that I'm like, all right, I know the problem, researching, all right, here's the problem. How do I fix that? And
Well, there's only one way
Yeah.
to fix it, bro, and that's training.
yeah.
Okay.
There's
That's
little,
it.
there's little things.
There's one way.
that you can find.
You
But,
train.
Yeah, you can train.
Now,
You-
who you say you could train? Well, that's one option. You could train, but no, you don't have to. Yeah, you have
No,
to fucking
no,
train.
but-
You have to fucking train.
Well, there's a key element to that. Let me add to this.
Yeah.
There's a key element that's sparking. That is, if I'm just going to, for our gym specifically, Esteem, right? If I'm only going to advanced sparring, sometimes coach is there. Sometimes there's always a black belt on the mat. That doesn't mean they're always necessarily working, right? They might be getting in their training, and so they might not be giving you the feedback. But if they give you some feedback, and this is where really I'll get more feedback if I go to that fundamentals, right?
Right, yeah.
And to that point, now this is more specific where I'll say this is an important little bit of advancement because I'm grateful if I get the feedback in class. Awesome, I'll take it, and that tends to be that specific. Certainly, there's a better chance of getting it if you go to fundamentals because coach could see, hey, you
Right.
need to be more on your side. It could be that 1/2 inch movement that makes the move work to not work, effective to not effective. And my habit is to not go all the way to my side, and he just called it out.
Yeah.
I feel the difference of working and not working, and it was a 1/2 inch.
Yep.
And it's a 1/2 inch. It's a habit that he now has pointed out because now he came around twice. He's like, you're doing it again.
Right.
Okay, now registering to myself, hey, there's a habit here. You got to break.
And if we were just sparring, right? If that wasn't fundamental class, and you were making that mistake, I might not tell you, and you might, and like you said, I might be at the end of our roll being like, Nick, me and you, like trying to get my next roll, and not even trying to give feedback because this is training. We're sparring right now, man. So yeah, it's both, right? It's like
100%.
It's like you're coming to that advanced sparring class, right? And you're doing it, trying to apply what you learned where at the fundamental class and trying to take that.
Right.
But yeah, you're gonna you need both, right? 100%. Like if you don't have, I mean, and this is like such a vital part. And you know when I started the thing, I did the downshift, right? Go from 4th gear to 3rd gear.
That's it.
Okay, what does that symbolize when I say downshift? What does that symbolize? Training more or training less?
It's training more.
Training more, dude.
And-
Sprinting is going harder, going
100%.
faster, doing more. Okay, so a good thing you can say is look at what you were doing when you were a brown belt or when you were a purple belt. Okay, double it. Right? And that's a no-brainer, dude. Because what's at the end of your purple belt, rainbow, or brown belt? Cool, that's awesome. It's still an in-between belt. That's an in-between belt. Do you think your coach puts as much importance and holds the same weight, right, as a black belt? No, it doesn't. Sorry, it never will. Okay? None of those in-between belts. That's why you call it a junior black belt and saying, like, that was my goal when I was young. It's like, why? Black belt is the goal, bro. Come on, right? Like, none of those in-between belts are the goal. So your coach, me, okay, I want to see sprints more, okay? I want to see you going after it, right? Whatever you trained to get your purple needs to be more, 100%, right? When I asked, what do you think it's going to take to get a brown belt? I was praying to God you'd say more training.
Yeah.
More training. Train more. Period. Do you want me to say more, coach? Because that's the answer. And I'd have been like, yes, he gets it. Honestly, bro. Train more. How many times a week do you train? You need to double that. That's it. And what classes do you train? There better be comp classes in that list. There better be an open mat in that list. What brown belt gets to black belt? Never spar in that sparring class. Doesn't happen. You need to train. You need to downshift from 4th to 3rd, punch it and go. Okay, because that's the equivalent of me driving 15 hours to Arizona when I was a brown belt. Why? Because there's a pot of gold, man, because the ultimate goal is in my sights, and he ain't going to give it to me for nothing. he better see me doing more than I did as a purple belt. Shit, as a purple belt, I only got out there every other month. That ain't gonna be enough. Every month now. That's it, bro. You know, eventually, right, when a honeymoon ends or when whatever wears off of first getting the belt, whenever that, whatever you want to call that wears off, I better see a downshift, bro. I want to see a downshift, right? From all of my brown belt students, there's more of you watching this. I don't think they tell us or comment or like, you know, that they watch it. There's brown belts on my team watching this, and that's what I want to see from you guys. I want to see that clearly you know it ain't a purple belt that you're about to get. You know it ain't a brown belt you're about to get. It's a red bar, bro. A black belt with a red bar you're going to get next, okay? If you think you're going to moonwalk to it, you're high, okay? You're going to grind to it. You're going to
Talk
take
about
whatever
pressure.
you're going to take whatever you were doing and you're going to double it. If you want to do the bare minimum, you're going to double it. If you want to impress me, you're going to fucking triple it, dude. You're going to be like, this, what you've never seen from me, coach, you're seeing now, okay? That's it. So so I'll answer your question that I asked you. Train more. Same for Boss Man, train more. Now, everybody, you train a lot, though. I mean, like, it's true. He does. He trains a lot, morning and night. Like I got to give equal
Double
amount of heart to double it. Double it. Thank you.
Triple it if you
Thank
want.
you. If you really want to impress me, triple it, right? And you know who I feel
You got
bad
8
for,
hours
bro?
a day, right?
But yeah, I was just gonna mention that. I'm glad you said that because you know who I feel bad for? 9-to-5ers, bro.
Yeah.
That would suck to be like, man, coach must not realize that I was maxed out training as much as I could as a brown belt or as a purple belt, and he wants me to somehow double it, right? I want you to find a way to increase it.
Now I'm feeling the
I
pressure.
do. You fucking better be. You better be because you have the ideal dream life to train all the time.
Yeah.
You do. Dream life, bro. There's only one reason why I was able to drive in 15 hours, train all the time in Arizona, come back and impress him enough doing that to get a black belt. Because I had a dream life, bro. Who's got 2 thumbs and is blessed? This guy, all right? It's true. I literally owned a gym. That was my job. That's awesome. If you have a 9-to-5 and I'm telling you, Wednesday gauntlet for promotions, you better be there. You're like, I work. And I'm like, go beg somebody for time off, bro. You better go start begging the right guy for time off. Like, I didn't have to do that. If Megaton told me, you know, hey, Pan Am's training next Thursday, I'm there. Who do I got to beg for time off? Me. Please, please? Okay, let's go. Right? Like, that's your situation, bro. You got to beg you for time off. You're stoked. Like, me and you had that same dream life, bro, for training. Other people that love jujitsu are so jealous of our life, Nick. Yeah. They're so jealous, bro. We're doing a podcast in a gym. We could literally shut this off and go roll right now if we want. You know what they're doing? They're on a union lunch break right now, like pissed, right?
After this, I'm pretty fired up.
Like, honestly, man, we have dream lives, man. And I tried to prove that to Megaton. I tried to prove that to him, you know, by saying, dude, what do you mean? How did I get here? I drove. That's how. Like 15 hours? Yeah, I don't care. Let's go. Let's train. You know, 2 days, 3 days while I'm there, whatever, right? Like, if it wasn't crystal clear to that man and everybody else at his gym that I was downshifting, like, I don't know what else I could have done to show him. I was clearly downshifting, right? And I want all of my brown belts to downshift. And I've always seen it. I've never, you know, don't think I've ever done this particular rant before, right? Great podcast topic because you got it out of me. But I've seen everybody do this naturally because there's something natural to seeing a finish line, bro. Yeah. There is. Like, maybe when you first get the belt and you're like, okay, got past that leg of the race, got a big one at the end here, I'm stoked, black belt coming up. But you do have a little bit of a chill motion, like just got it, a couple months in. All right, it's like you're still rolling it out, getting ready to downshift, right? Okay, but I always see people eventually downshift and go, right? I mean, you see it a little bit before every belt. You know, you throw out the post about, okay, you know, promotion's coming up, and all of a sudden, like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while, bro. Nice to see you at training, right? You know, you do see that, right? So I think every belt consists of like, okay, people are going to kick it up a little bit, but the brown belt needs to be kicked it up years in advance, not kicked it up, you know, 3 months before promotions because I know they're coming up, but kicked it up 2 years ago. I kicked it up because I knew in 2 years or 3 years I was potentially there, right? That's how it's got to be. It's brown belt, man. It's a brown belt, dude. It's so huge. You're this close, bro.
I don't think we can say any more on that. With that, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to the Belts Off Podcast. And today we are going to follow up with our series of what is blank belt. Today is what is a purple belt. What should you expect? What should you look forward to? what should you be doing and no longer doing. So let's cover some of those things. What's the first thing that you look at when you have a brand new purple belt? Where should everyone's going to be different on what they need to focus on?
Everyone's different, man. Everyone's different.
But they're a purple belt, which means they are the first advanced belt
Right.
in jiu-jitsu. So
Right.
they've taken off their training wheels. They're actually moving along in the jiu-jitsu journey at this point. If you've gotten to purple belt, you're probably a life longer.
Yeah, I think isn't that what they say? Like, if you get past that blue belt and you get your purple belt, like statistically speaking, the odds of you getting to black belt are much higher.
You're probably 5, 6, 7 years into your
Exponentially
training at this point. Pretty good chunk of time considering anything else that you do, right? You
Right.
get a master's in 8. So
Right.
5, 6, 7
to,
years.
yeah, tough to make those comparisons though, huh? Like you'll hear like the PhD to a black
Yeah.
belt comparison, and I'm
It's
thinking
different.
to myself,
It's
I didn't have to
different.
do like
it's different.
sleep at the hospital overnight. It's different, right? But yeah, I get it. Time wise, yeah, fully.
Purple belt was an interesting belt for me because you have the pressure of needing to show your abilities to like the white and blues, and that's kind of an ego thing. But looking at the browns and blacks, you no longer get the slack that you used to get at white and blue. And I think at purple belt you can really start to question your jiu-jitsu and question your game, because those things that your coach might have been letting you work on might have been like false positives, and now you got your purple belt and they're like, we're not going to play that anymore. You're going to have
What
to
do you mean false positives?
if it looks like you're working on something and doing better at something, and then they're now, okay, I'm shutting this down. Like, say like, yeah,
Like when you're rolling with your coach and he's letting you get away with your scissor sweep, and all of a sudden that don't work at all.
Yep.
And you're like, couldn't have gotten that much worse.
exactly. You're like, which is a great aspect, because then you know that you're at a point that you're at a proficiency that your coach believes that you can do this with, some modifications or some cleanup on it.
Right.
Because if they're defending it hard, that probably means it's close.
Yeah, that's a great sign.
It is. And so keep that mindset of, man, I used to be able to land this all the time and now
Yeah.
it's stopped, right? That means if you're going against higher ranks, they're respecting that
Right.
technique. Yeah.
Yeah, I am very complimentary of people when they make me work hard to defend.
Yeah.
Right? If I have to like do a little extra something to not get swept,
Yep.
and I'll look down and be like, damn, blue belt.
You
Nice.
made me sweat
Good
on that
job,
one.
bro. Like, honestly, I was about to go. A ton of credit to him. But purple belt though, first of all, do the same thing that got you there. I got to start everyone like that because it's the truth, right? Something got you from white to blue, something got you from blue to purple. So don't stop doing that. Yeah, first and foremost. But yeah, like you mentioned it was like the first advanced belt, I think you called it.
Yep.
It is. It's like the gateway to the advanced game. You're definitely, obviously not novice. Once you were a blue belt, you weren't novice anymore, right? But now you're entering this different club, so to speak. It's like, much more statistically higher chances you're going to get all the way through to a black belt, right? It's like kind of an elite club there. Expectations of you, though, are going to be that you are cementing your game, so to speak, right? Like starting to really, and we discussed game, right? Like what you mean by game, it's just your style, right? Really cementing your style at purple belt. You know what I mean? You're probably, maybe that's the point where you're at a crossroads. Could be. That's what, remember I talked about not being impressed with myself anymore and switching it up completely. So yeah, it could be a big crossroads belt. You might call it that.
Dylan, so you're a blue belt.
Yeah.
What do you think you need to do to get to purple?
Shit. At this point, consistency.
Yeah.
That's it.
Consistency. What do you think your blue belt and like a purple belt, what do you think the difference is as far as how does a purple belt feel to you compared to where you are
So far away.
so far away?
Yeah.
I agree with that because
Bummer. Just kidding. Coach told him that he agrees it's far away.
it is consistency. He wasn't lying about that.
Just
But
joking.
in a broader
I ain't mad about it.
in a broader span, I look at blue belt as one of the longest belts and one of the most transforming belts, because you go from knowing nothing through your white belts into your blue belt, and now you really have to figure out jiu-jitsu. So at blue belt, you're trying to figure out jiu-jitsu, but you're also trying to get proficient enough to honor that purple belt when you get there.
Exactly.
And then when you get to purple belt, you're like, what we were saying also is when you first start, purple belts seem like gods. They just crush your will when they can do anything they
do not
want.
feel different than black belts. They
Yeah,
really don't.
when you're a white belt,
Yeah.
the purple belts feel amazingly strong, and you're like, how in the world am I going to get that? And then you get your blue belt, and you're like, I have to get to that level to get my next belt.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
feels unattainable.
Yeah.
It can, and that's another reason I think people get those blue belt blues and they quit is because purple belts are so strong in jiu-jitsu that it almost feels like there should be a belt in between blue and purple, but you know the whole belt system, you don't want too many belts.
No,
in
I
the
love
ranking
our belt. I
systems.
love our belt system.
But and that's why I think there's a green belt in some
Silliness.
places where they go for like 1 year white, 1 year green, and then they go into the
No,
blues.
no, I love it. I love our belt system.
The belt system, how long it takes through each belt, it really makes you stop caring about belts at a certain point because you're either doing it or you're not. So again, it's the purple belt thing of you've been training this long. At this point, you're in it for jiu-jitsu and not to get that blue belt. I think people quit at blue belt because they're like, oh, I achieved something. I can say I'm a jiu-jitsu blue belt.
Colored belt.
When you get to purple belt, you're just like, yeah, this is what we do now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think I one of my favorite belts
Yeah.
was purple belt. Looking back on it, you know, and lengthwise, like you mentioned, did you say purple or blue was a long one? Blue. You said blue is a long belt, right? It could be. It could be, man. I mean, I think for all of us, leather belt was the longest.
Yeah.
Right? But no, I mean, it could be. It might not be though. You might blast through your blue belt. Like that whole time thing, man. With each belt is so relative.
It is, yeah.
It is so relative, man. That you can't go like by any set amount. Like
Belts
you can
themselves
range.
are so subjective.
They are.
Depending on where you are. So these conversations I like doing because it kind of gives our students an idea of what we're expecting.
Right.
And that was really the goal behind this is we can't say what another gym's criteria is for white, blue, purple, brown, black, but we can give our students a reflection of what we're looking for and what we're expecting of them when they get to certain levels. And you know, in jiu-jitsu, you're never supposed to ask your coach, hey, when am I getting my next promotion? When is my next belt? And a better way to phrase that is
What do you guys expect?
what skills or what do you expect of and then do your best to get to that point.
Yeah.
Not for the belt, but for your jiu-jitsu, right? And you always want to be better than your current belt. You never want to be somebody to look at you and go, man, that guy's a purple belt. Man, that guy's a blank belt. You would rather be like, holy, that guy is amazing at purple belt. Right? That guy's an amazing purple belt. And be that guy who shows up at other gyms and is like, oh yeah, I'm a blue belt, but I am getting some work in on these purple belts. That makes you feel good. But yeah, purple belt. What you if you just got your purple belt, keep grinding, keep doing the things that you're doing, keep polishing, keep making your attendance, show up for the warm-ups.
I know that's the purple belt thing, right?
Warm-ups are important. Even at Brown, I still do the warm-ups because it's so good for you. So many of the movements require those muscle groups, and if you stop going, here's another thing that happens. White belt, you drop a bunch of weight. Blue belt, you drop a bunch of weight. Purple belt, people start evening out.
Put it back on. That's
that
no
one.
joke.
I never
That
heard
I've
that
seen
one.
happen too.
Yeah,
Juanito.
People get proficient enough that they no longer have to like grind and do all the extra movement.
That would
Right.
make sense. Yeah.
No, that's true.
So I don't know if we touched on it, but am I allowed to ask what are your guys' qualifications for a purple belt?
When we feel like it.
Well,
Because I know I'm not supposed to ask everything.
your
So
qualification that's funny. It's not qualifications. Like it's not even like
not really qualifications, but your guys' expectations.
I think it's more like art. You know it when you see it.
it's more like art. Yeah, it's still martial art.
Yeah, when you
Makes sense.
are watching or when you're feeling somebody roll, there's a proficiency and there's a movement that you can tell that guy knows what he's doing. He's got the mindset, he can see, he can foretell where he wants to go, where he's trying to go.
Right.
His movement's clean. It's not choppy. He's got a game plan. And you can see that through somebody's jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So it's less about, here's a checklist. I want to see one submission. I want to see one sweep. I want to see. It's not so much that.
Yeah.
There are places who do have checklists and they actually have belt testing and all that.
Right.
Personally, it's a visual, it's a feel. When I'm rolling with somebody, do they immediately hit that knee slice? Do they immediately go for something? Are they like game planning? Are they
Yeah.
are they on the mat afterwards working on something?
Yeah.
Are they focused on?
I agree
Yeah.
word for word with everything you just said. Like that's exactly how and better. I wouldn't have just described it that well. That was great, beautifully said, sir. Because it is like looking at
Good. I'm gonna have to get that black belt one day.
I'm going to use it. I'm going to use that in the future because it is like observing art, right? And it makes sense since it's a martial art. But that's exactly what it is, and it's exactly that you are seeing that their decisions are correct, that they got the right idea, even if it doesn't work, right? Like I told people so many times, like, hey, good job, even though they just got swept and mounted, because I saw what you were thinking. I've told them that. I
makes
saw
sense.
what you were thinking, and it was correct. Good job. Didn't work. Right idea, wrong delivery, whatever you want to say. But yeah, that's exactly, really, to be honest, what it is.
That's
man.
why I feel like I'm far away because, like, I don't know if it's consistency. It could be a little bit of consistency, but I feel like what was working for me before isn't working for me now, and I'm getting stuck. And instead of game planning, it's more just survival mode still.
What I was going to add on before you mentioned that was exactly that. The only way to have those bing, 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 bing is to be doing it all the time. You're
Right.
not going to have that flow. You're not going to have that pretty look. You're not going to have the art unless you're doing it all the time.
Gracefulness.
I've had, people who have come in and it's like, all right, you're gonna smash that blue belt in no time.
They
Like,
don't show up enough.
and then all of a sudden they're gone for a while. And then they come back and it's like, okay, where you were isn't where you are. And so we got to catch that up and then we can start, on that path again.
Right.
But consistency is everything. And that's where, where you were talking in the blue belt one of, hey, if you're not ready to like give this a go, maybe just take a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe just take a break. Because if you're doing like you were saying, if you're doing the bare minimum just to stay kind of relevant, then
Right.
it's not really there.
That's me.
Yeah.
No,
Right now.
you don't want to do that. You might as well just take a break because obviously heart's not in it, man. Doing the bare minimum. Think about that in any aspect of your life. I mean, yeah, maybe there's sometimes where it's appropriate. Like if you're having just one of those days where man, just getting the right foot in front of the left is hard. Okay, do the bare, then whatever. But like, you don't want to make a habit out of that. You ain't gonna get much better at anything in life doing the bare minimum.
You need to commit to it at least a couple days a week. One day a week, if you're going through like a patch, okay, make it work. Get in that one day a week. But that shouldn't be, okay, I'm going to do a 1 day a week for
the next few
10
months.
years.
Yeah.
It's got to be, you have to have, and you might go through patches of your life where you can get in 4 or 5 days a week. And during those times, get it. And then you might have a month or two where it's like 1 day a week. And then you'll have another patch where you can hit 3 or 4 a week. That's not just doing the bare minimum. That's doing what you can when you can. But you also have to make time for it, right? So many people make excuse of having time or not having time when it was just an effort. They made an excuse.
Don't lie to yourself, man.
Yeah.
Be real with yourself. If you don't have the time, you don't have the time. But if you do and you just don't have the motivation, what's the difference between sitting there and telling yourself like, man, I don't have the motivation to do this today, and saying, man, I don't have the time to do this today? They're both the same result. You ain't doing it. Okay, one of them, you're just being honest. Like, how about that? How about just being honest with yourself? Just be real. Hey, you know what though? On the purple belt thing, I think this would be a good belt.
I believe
that this would be a good belt if you're a purple belt to really start focusing in on whether if you're the big guy, right, being a good role for people, right? Like I would expect my purple belt little guys to start being able to handle bigger guys. And I would expect my purple belt big guys to start being a great role for little guys, right? And that I'd say purple belt would nail that one because blue belt, you still like, it's not, you're not quite, you just got your blue belt, you're not a novice anymore, but you're still learning how to control your vehicle a little bit. By purple belt, I expect you to have enough control. So I think that would be the word to put on it. At purple belt, I have expectations that you can control your weapons and use them efficiently. Control them better if you're big and have powerful weapons, and use them more efficiently if you're small and you're rolling with bigger guys. I don't like to hear the "he was bigger than me" excuse. Okay, I roll with people that are bigger than me all the time. Okay, I mean, how much is Matt Crook weigh? 250, purple belt, big dude.
solid.
Roll with them all the time.
Hard to move 'em.
Okay, very hard to move. and
Great base.
I've never ever after a roll caught myself blaming his size
Yeah.
on anything that I did wrong.
Right.
Like, it's jujitsu. It's a jujitsu match. He beat you because your jujitsu wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
That's why he beat you. He's big or whatever. I don't care, dude.
No, he is big. He's solid. But when I try to do things on him, it's different than on other big guys. His jujitsu, his base, his structure is sound. Where
Super sound.
other big guys, you can start to disrupt the base and get some movement going.
Yeah.
With him, it's hard to move him, not because of his size, but because of his
It's
jujitsu.
fundamentally, yeah. And he's not. It's not like he's not athletic. He's an athlete too. So it's like,
And yeah, he's a big guy. I'm 140 pounds. He doesn't smash me. He
No.
just anchors.
great way to put it. He anchors.
Anchors.
Yeah,
And
and
so-
that's correct. He should
yeah,
anchor.
Exactly.
But at that belt
Yeah.
is when you should be able to start handling them
Yeah.
and stop using that as a freaking excuse.
Yeah.
Okay, by the time you're a brown belt, I should never hear that out your mouth. Never. Absolutely not. But, you may not be a master at it.
Yeah.
But I know one thing. I've never known a black belt ever that had the mentality of, oh, he's bigger than me.
1,000%.
Fucking shit. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. The bigger they are.
Yeah.
Right?
I posted that bigger guy meme into the group chat, and Jack, who's also like 150. His first thing was like, "Yo, those are great. Those are great rolls."
Oh, they are. Yeah, no, they are. I mean, once you figure out how to beat a big guy,
Yeah.
like I said, that's why I was putting so much emphasis earlier. Not to be mean, I was putting emphasis on, but do they suck or not?
Yeah.
Because once you get good at jujitsu, if they need to be good, like they need to also have jujitsu. There's no, I'm just big, therefore I win. No.
Yeah, so purple belt, start refining your game. Start working on the things that you like. Start shoring up some of the places that people take advantage you on.
Yeah.
Because at brown belt, you're expected to have a complete jujitsu that just needs to be polished. Am I wrong on that? You should have a game plan. You should have
Yes, yeah.
jujitsu. You should have you should be adequate everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you want to go into brown belt now?
No, well,
Okay, I was
just
going to say, because,
as a purple belt that's looking at brown belt.
yeah.
What should they start looking at is
All
having
that.
a complete game plan, having we were talking about earlier is there's not really a checklist to go from one belt to the next.
Yeah.
But in your brain, you can any position that you land in, could you go, can I sweep from here? Can I get back to a better position, and can I sub? You should have you should have kind of those three things just about anywhere.
I mean, but
yeah.
like by that, do you mean that you should be able to pull it off, or
No,
I mean, because
no.
you might not be able to?
No. What I'm saying is you should have options. And so,
Right,
do you
so-
have, a complete enough game where you have a submission from this position? Do you have a sweep from this position? And do you have a
See, here's the
retention?
thing, though. Like, here's what confuses me. Because have you ever heard somebody refer to what you know in jiu-jitsu? Doesn't that word sound like a written test?
Sure.
Doesn't that word, like, if you were to like everything you just said, the way you stated it all sounded like I'm going like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I know a submission? Yes. And I write that, but that's not jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
So you can sit there and say, hey, I don't know one, I know 10 submissions from closed guard. Ezekiel, armbar, triangle.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, bro. Can you do any of those? Well, maybe you could even show me all 10. Does that mean you know them?
No, it doesn't.
No, fuck no.
Because actually you're playing. And that's,
That's
what
why I
on
want to
that a
say,
lot.
are you able to pull them off? Like,
Yeah.
is that what you're saying? Because you might not be able to pull them off 3 from every position. Like, that's fucking hard on certain people, you know?
Right.
But here,
having
check.
a general knowledge from every position, I guess, is where I was trying to go with that.
I mean, having a general, yeah, because you're a purple belt, right?
Yeah.
We're on the purple belt one. Here's what it is, bud. You got to be able to trust your jujitsu, okay?
Yeah.
By the time, you're
That's a
a
good
purple
one.
belt, if you don't trust your jujitsu yet, there's a big problem, okay? White belt, you may fully be, this is a coin flip in my head. It might work, it might be absolute trash. Blue belt, you're like, okay, I now believe jujitsu works, no doubt. But my jujitsu is, by purple belt, I'm starting to trust my own jujitsu. And that's important, right?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I like that because I've shown moves and I'll have people say, I can't do that. So like if they're mounted in a competition, I'll be having them try to do like a push on the knee pass. Like you're trying to scoop it and get back to like a half guard.
Recovery.
And in your brain, if you're not trusting your jujitsu or you don't have confidence in your jujitsu, you're like, I don't want to turn. I just want to stay safe. I want to stay right here because right here I'm good. But no, you're mounted and they're going to win on points if you don't move. They may even submit you.
But you don't trust your jiu-jitsu.
You don't trust your jujitsu enough to create that movement.
Right.
Because you feel safe and comfortable where you are.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good, I like that point. And at purple belt, you just need to go.
You need to start trusting your jiu-jitsu, man. And yeah, for sure. And then we get into brown belts and you should have some solid trust for your jiu-jitsu. Right?
And at that point, it's like, you try this and it doesn't work. Well, you flow into the next piece. You flow into the next piece. You start stacking these things together.
Great one to add to purple belt right there. An ability to chain stuff together that was starting to click at blue is now becoming seamless at purple, because you can chain stuff together mechanically, which is what you're doing when you're a white belt trying to do it, and when you're a blue belt getting better at it, right? But if you've ever seen a seamless transition, right, when it goes just, you can't tell, wait, where did the other one end and the other one begin? It was so beautiful, right? That's going to start to
kind of like what we were doing this morning.
Yeah, trying to get better at the flows, the in between, the transitions, right? Did you see me breakdancing on whoever I was following with that day? That was that. That was like, flowing, next, all the way to the back step. Yeah. And, that should start to make sense to you, because it don't even make sense at first.
Yeah, no, that's a amazing piece, is being able to, one, set things up, but failure, next failure, next failure, next failure, next failure, until you find that sweet spot where you slip into a groove and you're like, all right, I got top. Right. you're like, all right, I got the sweep.
It's like you're failing forward.
Yeah, exactly. You're failing forward.
Every time I fail, I'm just
scissor sweep
forward.
didn't work. Okay, kick out that knee. All right, that didn't work. Oh, triangle. Oh.
And at the end, as you sit there with your arm bar, you're glad none of that worked.
See, I'm nowhere near that right now.
Right.
Got to put in those hours.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to, is putting in the hours.
Definitely.
All right, so purple belts, don't get discouraged. Keep on grinding into that brown belt, and we will have that one coming up shortly. Make sure you like and subscribe to catch the next one. Catch Dylan Delgado and his weight loss journey and your weight loss journey. If you're following along, you can tag along with him, lose that weight, hit him up for the macro and micro information. Catch Esteem Jiu-Jitsu in Petaluma, California, and of course, AKS Martial Arts right here in Rohnert Park.